The auction block. The sky above Red Creek Town was a flat gray, heavy with summer dust. The air smelled of horse sweat, whiskey, and sorrow. It was market day, but not just for cattle and tack. Behind the courthouse, the auctioneer's platform had been erected, where human flesh was traded like oxen. On that rough wooden stage stood a woman, pale, trembling, barely able to keep herself upright. Her dress was torn and soaked in blood. Her arms clutched two tiny bundles, no bigger than kittens. Newborns. Their faint cries broke through the murmur of the crowd like little bells of agony. The woman's name was Evelyn, though no one in the crowd cared to know it. To them, she was just another poor soul, widowed by the frontier's cruelty and trapped by debts she never made. Her husband had been a farmhand who died from fever in the spring. When she couldn't pay the rancher who owned their land, she and her unborn babies were seized as property. She had given birth barely a night ago on a cold floor, alone except for the cruel midwife who worked for the creditors. And now, blood still seeping down her thighs, she was dragged to the stage and set on display. The auctioneer cleared his throat. Lot number 12. Young widow, strong-boned, fertile. Comes with 2 infants. Who'll start me off at $50? The crowd stirred. Some men laughed, others spit. A few looked away in discomfort. But most leaned forward, hungry for a bargain. Women at auctions were bought for cooking, for work, or for darker purposes. Evelyn swayed, her vision swimming. She whispered down to her babies, kissing their damp heads. "Don't cry, my little doves. Mama's here." From the edge of the crowd, a man watched silently. His name was Caleb Walker, a rancher known for his solitude. He stood taller than most, broad-shouldered, with a beard darkened by trail dust. Folks said he kept to himself on his spread of land out by the foothills, where he ran cattle with no wife, no kin, just a few trusted hands. Caleb hadn't come to Red Creek to buy anyone. He came for salt and grain. But when his eyes fell upon Evelyn, half dead, clutching those helpless twins, something old and aching stirred in his chest. He remembered another woman, years ago. His wife, Mary. She had died birthing their stillborn child, leaving Caleb hollow. He'd buried her on a hilltop and never let another soul close since. But this sight, this broken woman fighting just to stay standing, split something open in him. The auctioneer barked again. $50, gentlemen. She's young enough to work your kitchen. You'll get the brats with her, 2 for the price of 1. The crowd chuckled cruelly. Evelyn's knees buckled. The babies wailed. $20, a voice shouted. The auctioneer sneered. That's an insult. She's worth more than that, even banged up. 30, 35. The numbers crept up, though not high. Nobody wanted the burden of 2 newborn mouths. Evelyn felt her strength slipping. Her heart begged to stop beating, to take her to where her husband waited. But then, 200. The crowd went silent. Heads turned. The auctioneer's jaw dropped. Caleb Walker stepped forward, voice steady as stone. $200. Cash. Murmurs rippled. That was no small sum. Enough to buy a prime bull. Enough to make men whisper that Walker had lost his wits. The auctioneer tried to spark more bidding, but no one dared raise against a sum like that. He slammed his gavel. Sold. Lot number 12, to Mr. Walker. Evelyn barely heard it. The world swam, tilting into blackness. She clung to her babies, whispering one last prayer before her knees gave way. Strong arms caught her before she struck the planks. Caleb lifted her easily, cradling her and the infants against his chest. The crowd muttered, but none challenged him. He strode from the platform, boots pounding like thunder, toward his horse and wagon. Evelyn, fading fast, felt warmth for the first time in days. A man's chest, steady as the earth. She thought she heard a deep voice murmur, "You're safe now. You and the little ones." Then darkness claimed her. The rancher's promise. When Evelyn woke, she lay in a soft bed. Clean linens tucked around her. The smell of wood smoke, stew, and fresh hay drifted through the air. Her body ached, weak as wet clay, but the searing pain of labor had eased. Panic struck her heart. Her babies! She bolted upright. only to groan from the tearing in her belly. A firm hand pressed her gently back. "Easy now," said a deep voice. "They're right here." Caleb Walker sat beside her, cradling one twin in each arm. The sight was so strange, so tender, Evelyn nearly wept. His big hands dwarfed the tiny girls, yet he held them with astonishing care. One baby rooted against his shirt, fussing. Caleb shifted, awkward but patient. "I reckon they're hungry," he said. "I tried giving them a little warm milk from a rag, but they want their mama." Relief and shame crashed through Evelyn. She reached trembling arms, and he carefully laid the infants back into her embrace. They latched eagerly, and she sighed, tears sliding down her cheeks. Caleb looked away, giving her modesty, staring instead at the fire crackling in the hearth. When the babies quieted, Evelyn whispered hoarsely, Why did you buy me?" Caleb's jaw tightened. For a long moment he didn't answer. Then he said, "Because leaving you there wasn't something I could do." She studied him. His face was lined with sun and grief, eyes shadowed by losses she could almost sense. He wasn't a man who wasted words. "They'll come for me," she whispered, voice shaking. "The rancher who claimed the debt. He'll say I belong to him." Caleb turned, gaze steady as a mountain. "No one lays claim on you anymore. I paid the price. Paperwork's signed. As far as the law's concerned, you and your little girls are mine." The words made Evelyn flinch. Like property still. But Caleb must have seen the fear in her eyes, for he added quickly, "Not in the way you're thinking. I didn't buy you for labor. I didn't buy you for my bed. I bought you to give you a chance to heal, to raise them without chains around your throat." Evelyn clutched her daughters tighter. The room swam again with tears. No man had ever spoken so plain, so kind. Days turned to weeks. Caleb's ranch became a strange sanctuary. He worked cattle by day, then returned to chop wood, cook meals, or fetch water for Evelyn while she regained her strength. The hands on his ranch respected him, and none dared treat her poorly. Sometimes, when she watched him cradle one of the twins against his chest after supper, Evelyn's heart ached with a strange warmth she tried to deny. But shadows lingered. At night she dreamed of the auction block, of jeering faces and grabbing hands. She feared that safety was only borrowed, that sooner or later men would come riding to drag her back. One evening, as the sun bled red across the sky, she found Caleb mending a fence rail. She gathered courage, her voice trembling. "You spent $200, more than I'll ever be worth. I have nothing to repay you with." Caleb set down his hammer, wiping sweat from his brow. His eyes softened. "You don't owe me a thing. I didn't do it for debt. I did it because I've buried too much in this life. A wife, a child. I couldn't stand by and watch you and yours get buried too." Evelyn's breath caught. Silence stretched between them, heavy with truths unsaid. At last, Caleb stepped closer, his voice rough. "All I ask is this: you let yourself believe you and those girls deserve a life. Not as slaves. Not as property. As free folk under God's sky. That's payment enough." Evelyn pressed a hand to her mouth, stifling a sob. No one had ever given her such a gift, dignity. She looked down at her daughters sleeping in their cradle by the hearth. Then back at Caleb, this rough rancher who had saved her not with chains, but with mercy. For the first time since her husband's death, Evelyn felt a seed of hope. And though she was not ready to speak it, she knew this. Whatever future lay ahead, she would not face it alone.